Now she's wearing a Palestinian wedding dress. It is an authentic one, 100 years old. She has long sleeves because she is a princess on her wedding day. After her wedding day, she's the queen of the house. She bosses the house. Husband will boss the synagogue, but she will boss the house. By the way, they got married at 13, so she's already past the marrying age, 14. Don't tell her mother that, will you? Or her boyfriend, or anybody like that at all. Now, she would have had to make this. Every village has its own embroidery pattern, and she would have had to have learnt how to stitch every stitch and make it. Look at the lovely stitch work. There are 11 different types of patterns that she could have used. Ramallah has its own distinctive pattern. If it was another town, you could recognise by it, also by the headdress. This is a padded headdress. This is the veil, of course. If it was a tall, high headdress, it would come from Bethlehem. Every town and village had its own particular pattern. Is that slipping down, Pet? Right. That will be good. So when she married, she would have the veil across like this. That's how Jacob married the wrong girl. Do you remember Jacob marrying the wrong girl? And next morning he woke up and found he'd married the wrong girl and went back to her father and said, "Hey, you gave me the wrong daughter. I wanted to marry Rachel, and instead of that I married Leah." "All right," said his father-in-law coolly, "you work another 7 years for me and you can marry the other girl as well." But what I want you to see is this, that on her headdress is her dowry. Girls were not very important in the Middle East. Do you know we still don't know how many sisters Jesus had or what their names were? We know he had 4 brothers. We know their names. James and Joseph and Judas and Shimon. Same as Shimon Peres, Deputy Prime Minister of Israel up till recently. 4 brothers, but we don't know how many sisters nor what their names were. So girls were not terribly important. They helped in the home. That's why they longed to get married, why they worked away up their wedding outfit till it was all ready. At the age of 13 came along, and at last they could marry and be a princess on that day and be a queen forever after. So they lived for that day. A father would give her a gift of money, her dowry, and she would stitch it into her headdress. And every coin was precious. That would always belong to her. Her husband would never be allowed to touch it. If anything happened to the marriage, if he died, that was her insurance money. So she was very proud of it. It was very precious. If anybody wanted to marry her, they had to compensate her father for all that dowry he'd given his daughter. They also had to compensate him for the daughter herself, who served him, who loved him, who helped him, who worked for him. So anybody wanting to marry this lovely girl would have to pay that, the dowry, plus a bride price, probably twice the value of all that coinage. Now, supposing Natalie had all this money and she lost some of it, what did it mean? She'd lost some of her bank balance because she went around with a bank balance on her head and her insurance money on her head. It meant she lost her security, but most of all it meant she couldn't make such a good marriage. She wasn't worth as much. She was devalued in the eyes of the world. Her own self-esteem went down. She felt mean and small and insignificant. It also looked ugly with a piece missing, of course, but that was a small consideration. The main thing was that now she wasn't worth as much. She was worth 10% less. Her value had gone down in the eyes of the world, in her own eyes. Oh, how terribly sad she'd be. So that's why she would look high and low until she found the piece that was missing. Thank you for being such a good sport. Do sit down. And this is what Jesus is really saying, and it's an important thing he says. He says, God loves people, even the baddies who are missing from him, who've gone away from him, who've got themselves lost, who have rolled away life and got themselves mixed up with all the mud and the mire and the muck of life in this wicked world. God still loves them. If they're Jewish, he loves them specially because they're his special people. They are the jewels in his crown. His first love, his sweetheart people. But everybody is precious to God. And Jesus came and mixed with the likes of you and me that we might be found and restored to God. Now, can you imagine what the old rabbis thought? God is like a girl, perish the thought. Like an Anglo-Catholic thinking there might be women priests. They're going to resign over it. The thought that God might be a girl, or like a girl, is horrifying, so they would have to rend their garments. Have you seen that piece in the Bible about rending their garments? I used to think it was a great big rip. It wasn't. The rabbi said you are to tear your garment 1/4 of an inch, no more. So they even had a little rule about how to tear your garment, 1/4 of an inch. And they would be disgusted that Jesus would say, God is like a girl. Of course, we all know God is male, they thought. But they forget that the Bible talks about the mother love of God. God is beyond sexuality. There is all things in him, and more beside. And he loves. And what he's really saying is, you Jews are very precious. Everybody's precious. He made you all. Abraham Lincoln said, God must love the ordinary man. He made so many of them. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should never perish with all the mire of this world, but has life that is eternal. So that's why Jesus came. That's why he mixed with the baddies. That's why he comes and still mixes with the likes of you and me. It's God's way of saying, I love you, I need you. Without you, I am less than God. Wow, what a thought. He is only complete when we are fully found. And he's not going to give up until he finds us. Some people say, where's the cross in all of this? Where's the cross in all of this? I would have thought it's clear. The cross is God making himself of no reputation. It's God saying, I am less than complete unless my people are found. It is God sending Jesus with the lamp of the gospel, looking for people. It is God giving himself to search and search and search until he finds you. It is God giving of himself and sacrificing and laying down his life till eventually we are found and restored and made his forever. Oh, men and women, boys and girls, if God loves you like that, do you not think you should love him in reply? The coin was lost and didn't know it. But in the next story, the boy was lost and he knew it. And what he said was, I'll go home to Father. May you this morning say, God loves me. I shall never be happy anywhere, but in his keeping. I shall return to him with all my heart. Lord, here am I. Take me and make me your jewel forever. They shall be mine in the days when I make up my jewels. Lord bless you. Shalom.